Hey, sixth grade. If you were not able to be with us on Monday and Tuesday of this week, which would have been February 8th and 9th, this video is for you. Or if you forgot what we talked about and want to refresh your memory, then video is also for you. This was the week that we started our Unit 3A, which is our unit on water, weathering, and erosion. So we talked about the water cycle and took notes and everything. It also meant that there were some changes that were made, hopefully in the interest of making life a little easier for everybody. So I wanted to take a moment and just orient you to where to find your notebook and your notes and all of that. So we are also going to go over the instructions for completing the Explore One activity. So stay tuned here. I'm obviously in first hours Google Classroom right now, but all of at this point, everybody's looks more or less the same. So you're going to go to the classwork tab on your hour, and you're going to notice that up here in the top, these uncategorized materials and things, I've added a couple of things that are important. One of them is a link to my YouTube channel. That way, if you're looking for previous videos that we've done, tutorials, demonstrations from previous activities, everything is there. So if you have any trouble finding it, let me know. But that link should take you right to it. I've also now, you have this form here that is a redo application for past assignments. So we are now past Unit 3A, so I'm technically not accepting any of the past work. But if there was something that you missed or something you scored rather poorly on that you would like to redo, you can complete this application, and I will look at whether I can give it back to you to do one more time. I will only allow you to redo one at a time, so you'll need to finish whichever one you do before you can ask for another one. And you have to be caught up on all your current work before you can come to this. So if you still have, work from 3B that hasn't been turned in, I'm going to ask you to redo that before I will release anything else to you. That keeps you from falling behind while you're trying to catch up. Okay, and finally, the notebook has been moved to here. And you'll notice that in here, there are no notes anymore. The notes are now split out into their respective units. That way you're not having to do quite so much scrolling to find what you need, and your notebook is in a nice, easy to find location where you can reliably find it every time. The notes for 3B that you missed on Monday and Tuesday will be here, and all the other notes for Unit 3B will be listed here with it as we build this unit's stuff. So this is all here. The slides that you're going to need to go over are right here. So you can go through those, and that will help you complete the guided portions of those notes. You're also probably going to want to have this handy because there are some questions on the second page of the Explore assignment that refer to processes that are driven by the sun or that involve water vapor and whatever. Those processes are going to be listed here. So you can use this as a guide too. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start on our activity. You're going to notice that there are 3 items under here. We have a form that's called Ride the Water Cycle or the Water Cycle Journey. And then you have the actual assignment here, which is a Google slide. And then there's a link here to something called Online Virtual Dice. This is one of those activities that was designed to be done in person. And the way the STEM Scopes response activity was designed, there's really no way to answer like half the questions because they're all referring to things you could only see if you did this in a classroom. So this will be one of those rare times when you're not going to go to STEM Scopes to complete this activity at all. You're just going to come here and complete this form and submit it right here in Google Classroom. But in order to do it, you do need to have this form open, and you need some kind of 6-sided die. This virtual dice link is fine. There's nothing about it that's special, though. If you wanted to use Google searches, roll a die, you can. A couple of students did tell me they couldn't reach this for one reason or another, like maybe at school it was blocked. So for this demo, I'm going to go ahead and use the Google search roll a die just so you can see where to find that too. But to open this, you have the water cycle activity. You want to open that, and you want to open the form. I already have mine open, so I'm just going to click to that. And this is one of those activities that's really much better if you can go ahead and look at things side to side. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this tab down, make it its own window, and use my keyboard shortcuts to move it over to the side. And then I'm going to move this one to the other side. So now I can see them both. Now, as you know, when you first open any of the slides, they're going to be in fit view. So some of them are going to be pretty tiny. So remember that you can use this zoom magnifying glass to zoom in a little bit. It is making it hard to see the whole thing at once, so you may have to scroll a little bit. But I do think that moving it to full screen is a big help because it gets rid of that toolbar on that side and the stuff across the top, which gives you just a little more screen real estate that you can dedicate to where you're trying to type. Okay, now, in order to fill this out, this first page is just this big long table. And there are 4 columns that you need to think about each time. You have to think about where you are, what state are you in? So that's what physical state. Are you a solid, liquid, or a gas? And you can put ice, liquid, or vapor since we're only going to be water. And then the number that you roll, and that'll make sense in just a minute. And then what happened at that point. Okay. So the idea here is that you're basically pretending to be a water droplet. And some of you may have played this game in the classroom before. It is a lot of fun. It's silly. It's cute. But the other thing, it's a good way to experience the water cycle because it helps you kind of visualize what's going on. So since we can't do it in the classroom, we're going to do it on this form instead. And you can pick any of the places to start that you want, but these are the 7 locations that you might visit along the way. So I'm going to go to the groundwater. Hit next. And all the pages are set up more or less the same way. You have a blue header here that tells you where you are. So that's going to be this, whatever's written here is what belongs here. So you're going to type underground. Okay. The state you're in will always be right here at the top of the next box down. So this one, if you'll notice, will say I'm liquid water. And you'll find your liquid water a lot. And there's a nice picture. This little set paragraph here is worth reading. It's just, kind of a quippy little paragraph that talks about what water does when it's underground or in whatever location you happen to be in. So it's a fun little read. And then there's an image here that shows you what your environment now looks like. And underneath here, there's some options that you're going to have to roll a dice to decide where you're going next. So it's a little bit like a choose your own adventure, except it's supposed to be more random than that. So if you ever need a die and you don't have one handy, you can just go to Google and search for roll a die and you get this interface that pops up. You want the sort of teal colored 6-sided die, which is what I have here. And then you want to just click roll. And it'll roll it. And I got a 3. So I'm going to come here to where I wrote number rolled. I'm going to just type a 3 in there. Then I'm going to come back to my water cycle form. And you notice it says if I'm rolled by 1, 2, or 3, I'm pulled downward by gravity deeper into the bedrock. If I roll a 4 or 5, I'm pulled by gravity into an underground stream. And if I roll a 6, I'm absorbed by a plant's roots. Okay, so I rolled a 3, which means this is my option. But before I move on, it's very important that I remember to fill out this last part. And this is another one of those rare times when I'm going to tell you to actually go ahead and copy and paste. And this is important because the way this is phrased is intentional. Okay, so I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to paste it. All right. The reason why I'm saying go ahead and copy and paste is because whenever it mentions gravity, you want to make sure you have that in there. If it ever mentions the sun, you want to make sure you have that in there. That's going to be important for later. Okay, so once I've selected my option, I'm going to come back to the form and hit next. And I want you to notice that I'm back underground again. So don't get confused if that happens to you because there's several places in the water cycle where you might be in the same location twice. I'm going to say I'm underground. Once again, I am liquid water. So I'm going to say I'm liquid water. And I'm just going to go roll my dice again. I got a 1. I'm actually going to demonstrate this a little differently here. Got a 5. Now, what I just did there may seem like cheating. I'm largely doing it because of the demo, but I'm not going to judge you too harshly if you get stuck in a place and then you decide to sort of force your way out. This time, notice that the dots already filled in here for a 1, 2, or 3 because I was already on this page once before. It's no big deal. I'm just going to mark my 4 or 5. And then I'm going to copy what happened to me and paste that into my chart before I move on. In my experience, remembering to do that copy and paste is the hardest part. If you can remember to copy and do that, then you'll have a much easier time. Okay. But the thing is, if you do end up in the same place twice, that does not mean that something is broken. There are many places in the water cycle where water will stay for many, 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 many years. There's water trapped in glaciers that has been there since the time of the dinosaurs. And this model is set up to simulate that. So it's okay that I was underground twice. The only reason why you might cheat like I did is if you just get sick of being there and you want to move on. Okay, so now I'm in a stream, so I'm going to write in a stream. Now I am liquid water again, liquid water. And I promise there are places where you're not liquid water. Okay, and there's a pretty stream. Oh, here, got a 5. It says a 5. I continue moving downstream, pulled by gravity. So this is one of those things where I might stay in a stream. I might go someplace else. Let's see. Oh, I'm in the ocean. Okay. With water again, and so on. So I'm not going to go through the whole chart with you. I want you to go on your own way because it is fun. I mean, it's silly, but it's fun. And you'll get to, if you're lucky, maybe you'll be drunk by an animal and have to be breathed out or expelled some other way. You might be taken up by a plant and transpired. So this gives you an opportunity to kind of see what it's like to be a water molecule. When you have finished this, now you'll notice that at the bottom of this form, there's no submit button. So there's no point at which you just stop. You could theoretically just keep traveling around and around. But since you probably want to go on with your life, when you get to the bottom of this chart, you can stop. Okay, when you get to this very next thing, just type what happened to you and then go on to page 2. Okay, and at that point, you can close this, get rid of your die, you're done with that. So I'm going to go ahead and stretch out my window here so I can see more of it. I'm going to come down to page 2. Now, page 2 has several questions. One is, if you were going to do the same activity again, would you follow the same path, yes or no? And then why or why not? So you need to explain why you think you either would follow the same path or why you don't think you would. And number 2, it's going to say, did you go to all the places that you could have gone? And if not, which ones did you skip? If so, what made you go to each place? And then finally, number 3, and this is the one that I think might be the most potentially confusing, is this diagram here is kind of a very simplified diagram of the water cycle. And what it's asking you to do is to look at the arrows. So the arrows are the processes where water is changing form or, changing in a massive way. So this is where you might want to go to your slides and look at the water cycle activity on slide, I think it's slide 6, and read the process descriptions on 7 and 8, because those are the things that are going to go here. And I'll just tell you right now that letter Y is actually looking for 2 words, not just one. Okay, because it has plants and animals here. So try to find the process that involves that plants do and try to find the process that animals do. So those are going to be 2. The rest of them are all just one word. Finally, at the bottom, it's going to ask which processes require the sun's energy and which parts are driven by gravity. So notice that these 2 things are going to come up a lot. Gravity is not a source of energy, but it is a force that is acting on the water molecules as they're moving through the system. So it's important to know when gravity is really the one that's driving the motion and when the sun's energy is the one driving the motion. And then finally, on that note, you have a claim evidence reasoning exercise here. Just in the middle. And that's exactly what it wants you to talk about. Write a scientific explanation that describes the importance of the sun's energy and gravity in the processes that make up the water cycle. So you're going to make a claim stating that the water cycle moves as it does because of the sun and gravity. And then your evidence is going to come from your journey on the first page. Okay, so remember, evidence is not something that you know about. It is what you've observed or experienced or read about. So just like a lawyer in the court of law does not come and just say, Judge, I just know he's innocent. He has to come and provide the evidence that he has to prove that he's innocent. So when it comes to talking about gravity, then you're going to come back here and you're going to look for all the places here where you copied and pasted and gravity is mentioned. Okay, so when I was a water molecule, at one point gravity pulled me downward into the bedrock, and that was important. I was pulled by gravity into an oncoming stream. I was moving downstream because of gravity. So you notice that gravity is mentioned several times. There are also processes that mention sunlight. So you'll hopefully be able to see them both here. So you want to list those here. And then down here is where you're actually answering the question. This is where you're making the argument that says, I know gravity is important because I experience these things. And gravity works like this. So if there was no gravity, here's what would happen. Okay. By the same token, then you're going to also talk about sunlight. So make sure that you talk about both. All right. that should be all that you need. If you have questions about it, of course, you can always email me, and I will have office hours open from 1 to 2. So come on by. You just have to drop in. I think that's it. Let me know how I can help you, and good luck.